Remember just a few months ago, a company called Black Forest Labs released the Flux Dev and Schnell model and kind of changed the image generation AI industry and shook it up quite a bit. And a few days later, we actually got the Flux LoRAs that you can actually train for their Flux Dev and the Schnell models. And then you got the whole internet filled with posts like this, where people were just training LoRAs on their own faces, their products and all that. Well, recently, I got this email from Flux, and it was just in my inbox, kind of hidden. I just saw this a couple of days ago, and they actually released their fine-tuning for their Flux Pro and the Flux Pro Ultra models, which are their latest, kind of the much more better version of their older releases. They can produce much higher quality images and are trained on much more better quality of data. And they just announced fine-tuning capabilities for them. So they released an API, which I will attach the links in the description. You can read through this if you want to. But I went through all this, and they actually have released capabilities so you can fine-tune these models, and actually released a version of this fine-tuning where you can actually choose between either fine-tuning it using LoRA, LoRa adaptation, or you can actually perform full fine-tuning as well. So you can hit these API calls and perform fine-tuning for yourself. Currently, I could not find a UI where you can just go to a website and do this. So I kind of decided to create my own. Just if anyone wants to use it, I will leave the GitHub link in the description as well. I'll be talking a bit more about that in a minute. But you can actually use both of these models, the Flux 1.1 Pro and the Flux 1.1 Ultra, to generate images based on your own fine tunes. The only difference is, since these models are not open source, you would not be able to actually download those LoRAs that you trained onto your local systems, compared to what we had before when we were using the Flux Dev model and the LoRAs trained on them. You can just actually download those LoRAs, run them on your local computer, which was awesome. But today I'm just going to be going through this, what these kind of training for these high quality models look like, and what kind of generations do we get. I'm just going to be comparing the outputs from the Flux Dev model and these new high quality Flux Pro and Pro Ultra models. But there's still a bit of a difference. So you could actually train the Flux Dev LoRAs, which were the older ones. I think there was not any limit on the number of steps you could train that on, but with these models, the maximum number of steps you can do is 1,000. So for it to be a fair comparison, I think we're going to be comparing the LoRAs that I trained on 1,000 steps as well. But I'm not sure why they did that. Like, why limit the capabilities of your own technology? And it's not like this is free, like you're paying for the training. So give the users the capability to train it for higher time, higher steps if they want to, right? But anyway, this is what we have right now. So I'm just going to be going through this. And I built a UI, just created a quick project. And if you want to use it, just clone the repository. The link is in the description. You can clone the repository. There are instructions in there how to use it, but I'll just quickly tell you. Once you clone it, you just have to rename this config.example.json file to config.json and just put your own API key in here, and then you're good to go. Of course, you'll need like $20 or something if you want to train your own model and then to generate some images. I think one training depends on the number of steps and other parameters, takes from anywhere between I think $2 to $7 to $10, something like that is what I've seen so far. But yeah, that's how you use it, and then you just run this with the Gradio interface using Python app.py, and then you have your UI open. So I'm just going to quickly do that here. So once you have put your API key here, which I already have in the config.json, I'm not going to be opening it right now, but then you can do just python app.py, and a Gradio interface is going to pop up. And yeah, you just go to the local link, and this is how kind of the interface looks like. And here you can train your own models. You just have to give it a zip file of your images. 10 to 15 images, good high quality images is kind of the sweet spot. And of course you can play around with these parameters. So as I said, the maximum is 1,000 steps, but we're gonna actually try and train a LoRA on 100 steps and see how it what kind of results it produces. And you can play around with these parameters. This is the default setting right now. They also gave you a training mode, so you can choose between general, character, or style or product, whatever you are training your LoRA on. And then the most important thing is you can actually fine-tune the whole model. So you can do full fine-tuning of the model instead of just training a LoRA. For those who don't know, LoRA is kind of an adapter that goes on to the model. So when you are actually calling the model to generate an image, it actually runs through all the neural nets within the model, and it then passes through this adapter, which you have trained on your own images, on your product's images, and then it kind of generates the final image. That's kind of a very abstract description of LoRA, but in a full training, the actual parameters within the model itself will be changed during the training, so the weights will be manipulated of the actual model. So you can choose between either one of these two, but I found LoRA to give pretty good results, but if you have much more focused use case, you might want to go ahead with full training. But yeah, feel free to try this for yourself. The UI also has this model browser right here, where you can see your trained models, kind of the name, the description, the ID, the trigger word. And yeah, if you don't know, the trigger word is the word which you will choose to kind of generate images later with your trained model. So that has to be not a real English word, because it's already been trained on real English words, so that might confuse it. So choose a word like they recommend talk, but choose a word like that's not an English word, like anything, right? Like an abstract description of what you're training it on. And once you have trained it, you can kind of check the status from here. So we're going to actually do that right now. I'm just going to train it on my own images. So I'm just training it on like 7 images. I gave it a zip file right now of my images. I'm going to select character. I'm going to name it PR100 because we're going to train it for 100 steps. And the trigger word I'm going to choose is PR. Yeah, that's good enough. Or maybe do make it a little bit more unique. So I'm going to include my letter of my first name and then my last name. So that's going to be my trigger word. That's going to be used to generate images. I'm going to train it for quality. I'm going to do auto captioning. So it's up to you. If you want, you can actually give the captions as well with the training. Captions is nothing but the description of each image, so it can get trained on those description corresponding to the image. So that's how it learns. What's happening in the image will be in the caption. But if you don't want to put the captions yourself, it's just a text file with a similar name to the image, and inside the text file is written just a description of what's happening in the image. If you don't want to do that, you can just have a bunch of images in there like I do. So my file currently looks like this. It's just a bunch of images of myself, and yeah, images like of my face mainly. And I gave it a trigger word this, and I don't have captions in there, so I'm gonna check mark this. So it's gonna generate captions by itself for training. We're gonna do LoRA training here. Fine-tune ID is what you will generate once you start the training. So once all the parameters look good, everything been set, you can click on start fine-tuning, and there you go. So now it's hitting that API endpoint in the background, and it will give you what's happened. So fine-tune job started. Here's your ID. So this ID will be used later to inference this model. And now we're going to just check how much did it cost me. So we can go, I think, right here. And I was on 405, and now it's 181. So it's cost me around, I think, 220. So $2.2 for 100 step training, which I don't know what kind of results it's going to produce. We're going to check it out. But over here, you can do start find. Sorry, we already did that. We're going to do check status. Oh, I'm sorry. We need to give the fine-tune model ID of the model we just started, and I did not copy that, so I will just get that from the API. Alright guys, so this is the fine-tune ID we just started, and yeah, so now you can just check the status of it. So it's giving me error right now. Let me see. Well, there's a funny reason it's giving me error, because you see here it's just supposed to be the fine-tune ID, but currently I built this very quickly, so it gives me this text as well. So we're just gonna remove it. I know it's kind of a funny mistake, but yeah. So you just want to leave the fine-tune ID in there. You want to do check status, and it says model not found, so it's still in training. So once it's been trained, it's gonna give you the status that it's been trained. So we might have to wait like 5 minutes, I think, for that, for this 100 steps. But you can just keep checking, and once it's done, you will get the status. Alright guys, so right now it's showing me the status pending. So it's still training is going on. Once the training is done, the model should be added in there. I know it's not the most aesthetically well built kind of a browser for the models, but it does the job. It shows you what models you have right now. So it shows you the trigger words, the parameters you use for training and all that. And yeah, we're gonna keep checking. It will take like, I think, 5 to 10 minutes to train this. Yeah, there you go. And once it's done, it's gonna show you training completed successfully. It's gonna hopefully add that model to the model browser. I think we'll have to refresh these. So it just hits the API call to get the details of what models I've trained. And there you go. You can see my model is showing right here with the trigger word this. And now you can go to this generate with model. Here you can generate images using these models that you have trained. We can actually use two models or two inference endpoints to generate these images. One is a standard Flux Pro model. One is the Flux 1.1 Ultra model, the 1.1 Pro Ultra. I didn't find much difference with the results of the fine-tuned versions actually, but I haven't experimented that much so far. It just came out and I just built it, so feel free to experiment with it. One thing I found is the aspect ratio is kind of finicky. It's not most of the times giving me the correct one that I'm selecting here. That might have something to do with the API. That might need to be fixed, so I'm going to fix that in the coming days, but for now it's generating images. So you can try out, you just select your model from right here. Yeah, so you can just refresh the models from here as well, and it's gonna, if you train a new one, it's gonna then show up here. And there you go, you select this one, and now you enter the prompt. So the prompt is always going to contain this trigger word, which is gonna let it know that, okay, you gotta use the training we just did to produce the images. And yeah, on a horse riding into a sunset. Let's start with a simple one. The seed value I'm gonna start with 0. I'm gonna leave it as it is, and let's see what it generates. So we only trained this for 100 steps, the minimum, and I want to see what kind of results we get with the minimum amount of training. It cost us like $2.2 to train this. So let's see what results we get. Alright guys, so this is the result we got, and it did actually pretty well. So as you can see, you can download the image from here, and I kind of looks like me a little bit. Maybe I would say 94%. But yeah, the image quality is pretty damn good. And this is with 100 steps, and I did not optimize any of the parameters, so I would say thumbs up. This was the Flux Pro 1.1 Ultra model. Now we're gonna select the Pro standard one, and here you have much more customization. At least that's what I found in the API. But feel free to look through the links. They're right in the description. You can find them in the README section of the GitHub project as well. Feel free to explore it if you want to change anything in this repository to make it work better. Feel free to do that. And okay, so I will now generate the same prompt with the Pro standard model. I'm gonna leave all of these the same. Maybe do like 45 steps. And for now, let's just generate and see what we get. So I've been getting mixed results. Sometimes the Pro is doing better, sometimes the Pro Ultra does better. So let's see what we have here. Alright guys, so this is what we got. It looks like me, but it just went a little hard on the sunset, but it looks very much like me. So let's actually try it again, and let's see what we get. Alright guys, so this is what we got now. I turned on prompt unsampling on, so it kind of enhances the prompt. But let me try a bunch more generations, see what we get. I'm going to try this raw mode as well, see if it gives us more realistic results. But remember, this is just with 100 steps of training, so and no optimization of other parameters like learning rate or the LoRA rank, which is highly impactful on the training. But it's still giving us pretty decent results so far. Especially the first image I generated was very, very good. Oh wow, that's like it turned me into some kind of alien or something. Let's see if it looks like me. I don't think I look like that. Actually, maybe yeah, I copied kind of my face a little bit in there, but yeah, it's doing pretty well so far for such little amount of training. We're gonna turn raw mode on this time, and maybe yeah, let's leave it as is. And I'm gonna try a couple of different prompts as well, and then we will compare it with the Flux dev model, which has been trained on my images as well. I think the similar images, or maybe a little bit more, so I don't know if it's gonna perform better compared to this or worse. We'll see. Alright guys, so now comparing it with the dev model, so I am trying to run this prompt where myself as President of the United States in front of a Capitol giving a speech, and this model doesn't seem to be doing that well. But remember, 100 steps training only, right? So we're going to turn off the raw mode, and we're going to try it one more time, and then we're going to compare it to the dev model. Alright guys, so it did not do that well for the Donald Trump images, but I tried that with the Flux dev trained model, and it did pretty well. It put my face on there. I don't know what it looks like, if it looks well or not, but you can see all the members in the audience have my face now, even the women, so that's fun. But anyway, this has been trained on I think 1500 to 1000 steps, and this one is trained on 100 steps, so it's not a fair comparison. But I tried a different prompt now. I'm trying just some weird fantasy prompts, so it's giving me pretty good results, and this is what I got. This is just from the 100 steps of training, of course, and it's not bad. I think it can do pretty good, but still it's pretty good. And now we're going to try the same prompt in the Flux dev model, which has been trained on 1500 steps. So let's see what we get here. And in the meantime, let's try a different one too. So this is what the Flux dev model gave us, and it's actually not that good. It's like blurring my face and everything, and this has been trained on much more steps, like 15 times more training time and steps for it, and this is still competing with it. So actually, let's use a model of myself that I trained on a little bit more, I think 500 or 1000 steps, And let's compare that with the dev model. So this is what we got for the model that I trained for much longer steps. But let's see if it's much better. It's a little bit distorted, but it's much better than the Flux dev model in my opinion. There's also some smoke thing happening right here, which is fun. But if you compare it side by side, what do you say? Which one is better? I'm not sure. Like, we can't. It's still not a fair comparison, but still, I think the 1.1, if trained well, I think can really surpass this. But yeah, let's see. So these are the two images side by side. I mean, yeah, I think the Pro model can be much better, but yeah, you'll have to play around with it a lot to figure that out, and I'll leave that up to you. One thing I forgot I did not add in here is the number of steps it should take to generate. So right now it's, I think, taking some random the default number of steps, but I should add that in there. So by the time you will be able to see this video and access that, I think that will be added, and some more parameters. And you can also put negative prompts in there to get better generations. But anyway, so that was kind of the comparison we had here. And feel free to play around with this, train your own models. And what I found was, when I put the rank 32, it's giving much better results in some cases. I'm not sure. I'll have to play around with the parameters a lot to find out. But yeah, so because we trained this for 100 steps and it was still giving us pretty good results. So I will share some of the results that I got with this model that I generated earlier. Yeah, so these are a couple of pictures I generated earlier. See, like this one it copies my face and everything pretty good, and the photo looks pretty good. And if you move on to the next one, yeah, I put my face on Trump's face pretty well here, and over here too. So yeah, it did okay for the amount of training and the amount of time spent on this, but there's much more potential to be explored there. So I will leave that up to you. Feel free to use it. Feel free to make a much better version of it. And if you found this video helpful, feel free to leave a like, drop a comment, what improvements you made to my version of this UI. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and take care.